going to be fun. All right. Before we get started, you're East. Are you? Yeah, you're East Coast. Are you in New York?
East Coast, New York.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm actually planning a trip. I've got clients in New York. I'm planning a trip in December, so I'll have to maybe
Cool.
swoop.
I should show you.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah.
We had a place. We lived at Hudson Yards for 4 years at 30th and 11th. We had a place right at the base of the High Line. It was still under development when we were there, but it's nice now.
Yeah. No, I'm on the complete opposite. I'm on the East River. But yeah.
Amazing.
This view is
epic. Yeah, when you see that, it makes you want to get up and do some work, essentially. Okay. Oz.
Yes.
I want you to describe to me what is the traditional hiring process and what's wrong with it.
I wish there was a traditional hiring process. I wish that when we were going into this situation that puts us in a lot of stress and pushes our boundaries, and some people do it better than others. Like, a lot of us are better performers in the job because it's not a natural situation that you're put in this type of test. Then if there was something that is, when you say milk, for example, you know what it is. Or when you say an interview, then no one knows what it is. And that is what is very hard about it. Like, I wish there was a process that everybody would know. Once you interview, this is how many steps it will take. These are the amount of people you'll be talking to. This is the amount of time you'll be spending. Like, something that is more predictable and takes a lot of the stress out of the process. So when you know what's coming up and what it is that you're going through, then, to your question, the process right now is not clear to everybody. And unfortunately, even those who say that this is my process, a lot of people don't commit to the process. And all of a sudden they remember that they need to involve John and they need to call Sarah, and that, there's another exercise we need you. And next time we're going to give you the offer, but actually we need a reference list. Like, that is this unclear process that all of a sudden, when we as hiring manager did not get what we needed from the process, we all of a sudden start changing it. So what I want is a process that the whole team put together from start to finish, because they understand how they know to find the right candidate. That's what I want to happen. And I want more people to be aware, because a lot of people know that it's not ideal. A lot of people go through interviews, but when they forget to polish that section. And what I want is that people will remember that, what it means to be a candidate in the process, and that they will care to put one that works for them, for the hiring managers, to learn the candidates, to make it a human process as much as possible, and also to commit to it from the get-go, not to change it constantly, and not to make it overdone.
I like what you were saying, and I don't to summarize, like, the unpredictable nature of the hiring process varies so dramatically. And if we think about it from job description, posting, then you apply, then you interview, however many rounds of interview, and you get to offer. From a very zoomed out lens, that's kind of the process. But within that process, the variability of what that looks like is drastic, and even can change within the same organization so much. So if there is a process, even if the process is different, if it's clear up front, that would help. And if it injects in empathy, the human element, and taken from the voice of the customer, which is the candidate, when you shape that process. Would that be kind of what you're hoping to gather from the, I guess we'll call it the future of hiring?
Yes, absolutely. Something that, really takes both sides into consideration. How me as a hiring manager, I'm different than, Sarah as a hiring manager. And I would like to learn about the candidate in this way. I want to, learn about what they did in the past. And Sarah needs to see how they do research. And I think that having that flexibility for the hiring manager is key. It's like, but take a second to be also honest with yourself. Do you know what will make you satisfied? Do you know what will bring you to close with this candidate? And once you do commit to it and you know yourself and you know how you work and how you identify who's good for the job and who would work for you. But like I coach a lot of people that are currently in this mode of searching or layoffs. And, I met someone last week and she said, I'm about to get an offer. I'm so happy. This has been going so well. It's going to da 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 da. And like she was all raving about it. And then in the evening, I got a text from her, and 5 more people all of a sudden were added, but they wanted to make it short. So they put her in front of 5 people. That was crazy to hear. And it's not the first time. So what I need is that hiring managers will see how bad this looks, how demotivating it, how candidate that was so excited to work for you a second before. So what is it that in your process that got you to meet that person multiple times and you still don't know if you want to hire them?
And I think the work up front is super important, and like
Yes.
that will save you so much downstream, whether it's just overall the experience is going to be better. You're going to be more efficient and effective at hiring. And it presents itself what you just said, the story of a candidate. And what I hear all the time from hiring managers, they interview 3 or 4, and the first thing they say to me is, do you have any more? It's like, well, why? Like, what is it? So like some people just jump in and think they'll know when the person's in front of them that they're the person, instead of doing the work up front to recognize not only what you're looking for, but how you're going to assess if they meet that, to design a system that's applicable for that role, that hire at this time. And that can change, but that the thought up front is super critical to doing that. But you're also saying, like, if I'm agree with you, is you can change that hire to hire, but not during the process. Wait till the
Yes.
process is done. And then at the next
Exactly.
hire, if you want to improve it or make some changes, cool. But to be fair to the candidates and the entire experience, you need to do the work to design a process.
Yeah. Or even share it with the candidate. Like it's okay to tell, hey, Sarah, what we're looking for is so and so. And we've talked to you several times and we haven't seen that. Can you help me understand that? Can you demonstrate it? It's okay, but just be honest. It's not a competition. It's a process that really you need to work together with the candidates to make sure that you put them in the right place to give you the information that the evidence and the information for what you need, versus try and guess it or hide it or like seeing it as a me against this person until I hire them. No, it's like just guide the person, and you chose them from a long list of candidates. You chose them for a reason. So now help them prove to you that you chose correctly. And if not, then it's okay. But that extreme openness is super important to bring to the table. And then she can say, well, you know what? I don't have experience in this, but I still think I can do it because like just have that collaborative conversation is really important. And you said something about, wanting to see more candidates, and I'm guilty in that. In one of the roles that I hired, I actually met a candidate and someone was shadowing me interviewing. And at the end of the interview, I was just sat in my chair and I was just shocked. And the person who was shadowing me was like, what is happening? And I told her, I am so, like, there's nothing else I need to hear from this candidate. I know this is a good person. I know this person can do the job. And for all I care is I need them here tomorrow because they're going to be amazing. And I would like to save them all of this process. But on the other hand, we said there's a process. We want to involve more people. Like, we need to follow through. But I'm in this, I feel like I need to cancel all the rest of the interviews. Like, I feel like there's so many things I need to do. And, and that person who was shadowing me said, so what do you do when something like that happens? And I said, well, I think first, we scheduled another person for tomorrow, so we should interview them. But I feel like I need to think about what just happened to me, because this has never happened to me, that on the first person I found it. And so I interview the second person. I go back, speak to the person who was shadowing me, and she said, I thought about what you said last night, and I thought that good things happen to good people. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to offer her the job. That's like, it's silly. We don't need to play this game. This is silly. I want her to meet more people, in the process. But I know this is, this person's going to report to me. It is love at first hire. And just I'm going to do it. But I needed that person to actually come and tell me, you know what? Good things happen to good people. So.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it's like, as a recruiter, I'm sure all recruiters they cringe when they hear, you've done work, and like you get to the point where it's like, they were great, they were so good, I just want to see some others. It's like it's almost, I don't know if it's just like you need that reassurance that they're the right, but then it's not fair to the other candidates that you put them forward. It's like you're setting them up to fail because they already like somebody, and now you're just putting somebody in just to reconfirm that they like the individual before.
Yeah,
So
it's a backup.
It's kind of weird in the process. But how did the hiring process get to this point in terms of it being so, I don't want to say like, just the human element's been removed and there's so much variability. There's such a rush. It seems like everything is like, we have to hire, let's get it out now, go, go, go. Like, how did we get to this point, and why is it turned this way?
Yeah, I think as human, we're not good planners in general. And then I think this overcomes, you have a lot of work, and then you kind of advocate to new headcount, and it takes forever to get approved. And then finally you get it approved, and you need that person now, and then everything is rushed. But I think that it's super important to understand that once you find the right person, then that time does not matter. And the right person can actually help you close the gap. And I think that it's really key not to get yourself in a longer process because you haven't done the right planning. Like, that planning is important. And also, there's a lot of really talented people that got promoted, are now hiring managers, and the organization thinks they're talented and don't need to be supported, which is silly. Everybody needs to go through hiring process training, and be open about, how do I learn about the candidate? What are the right questions to ask? Or here's a bank of questions that will help you, identify. Like, really, to work with the recruiting team as your supporter in this is so important. Like, the recruiting team is not there to just filter the CVs for you. It's actually a person that has done this 10 times more than you would ever do. And they can really support you in building a right process, in giving you best practices, in offering you, alternative and bank of questions, and then saying, you know what, you're going to ask about this, but Sarah, who's the next interviewer, can focus on that. And then you guys can sync and see that you don't ask the same question. It's not a repeatable process, but also it's something that is helpful, and you get, another opportunity. And I don't know how many hiring managers actually sync with everybody throughout the process to actually say, you know what, I failed to find the evidence that they've mastered skill X. Can you help me? You're meeting them next time. How about you add this question, or like just dig deep and see if maybe you can, identify that, because it's an important skill. So I think, working together with the hiring team in the right context, not in the context that we're rushed, so can you just filter it for me faster, and actually having that discussion with them and saying, this is what I'm looking for. What do you think? Or, how will you find them? A lot of the times, actually, even just saying it out loud, although I've been hiring for many, many years, I'm managing a team for many years, still every single time I do this conversation with the partner from the recruiting team, they help me. They help me find candidates in similar roles or in similar companies, or they bring ideas. We can think of new ways to do it faster or shorter, or actually we need, we're starting early. So what happens if we actually find someone earlier, then we can actually put them in the process. Like, it's just that work needs to be put in. It's like another example of why that is not something that you put a job description today and today you start, interviewing, and if you haven't done the legwork before that. Oh.
Yeah, I this is why we get along so well. Is you're preaching to the choir here in terms of the preparation being super important, and I think the perception of recruiters, whether it's an agency or whether it's internal, is the role they play is resumes. Like, just give
Yeah.
me resumes. Like, just do that, and it's more than that. Like, it's a process. Like, recruiting is a system, and for each hire, it's different. And if you're just leveraging your recruiter for resumes, then you're not getting the full value of leveraging that expertise in terms of like looking at your internal process and say, like, how many interviews do you want to put them through and why? Like, what kind of questions, what is important for you to assess in this hire? Like, what does success look like? All of these questions that can help you shape what you want this hiring process to be like before you even look at a resume or even put something out there. So now it's very clear on, here's what success looks like. Here's how we're going to assess it. Now let's go and attract it at the same time. So you take a second before you do all the work, and it saves you so much time downstream. So
Yeah. And I can say my experience, and I don't know if to call it lucky, but I was lucky to actually not have like a linear career, but I actually was a manager in a huge company way before I was a manager for a smaller company. I was lucky to actually be included in hiring training. And also I had a partner in the recruiting team that after each interview, she was like, so what did you learn about this candidate? What did you like? What did you not like? And that person helped me do this conversation. I do it with myself, or like I bounce back with a peer about, should that person actually stay in the process? Because a lot of the times, if we actually take a second to reflect on what we experienced, we can identify better if that person actually is the right fit, or we missed a question and we didn't really get a good enough answer. But does not mean that that person doesn't have it, but it does mean that next time we talk to them, we actually need to focus on that, and it's important to do that. Or is that person not a fit and we should not put them in the process? We want to stay good in this process, and an early decline is good for the candidate.
Yes.
To put them through a process when you're kind of like, I'm like 90%, committed, that's not a good outcome for the candidate. The candidate needs to be not occupied with the process that will not result in a job at the end. So just take a second afterwards, and a lot of the times the hiring team, the recruiting team, will help you do that reflection. So what did you learn? What did you ask? What did they say? What do you think about it? Is that helpful? Would you ask it in a different way? Like like these type of questions, that just having someone else ask you those questions can help you form a better process, and also probably a faster one, because you won't have candidates in the process. I have another person that I'm coaching, and she was one of 5 other candidates in the final.
5 for a final?
5 for final. And I'm like, that's not a finalist. That to me means they have no idea what they're looking for. How are they going to choose between 5? Sometimes you get to do, or at least that's where you should be. You're like, okay, I'm like debating, this person is strong in this and it's important to me, and this strong is stronger in that. but it's also important to me. That's what you need to come with a finalist. Like there's no backup. There's no, I don't know. Like, no, none of that. You need to go back and do some reflection and work with the professional person who will help you unpack why you're in a finalist with 5 people. And, my advice, I was like, you need to contact them and say, I learned that I'm part of 5 people. I would love to have one last conversation to tell you why I'm a good fit for this role, because they don't know what they're looking for. They did not get an answer from you because they're 4 other people. And that is really important.
I agree. I mean, a couple things you said there. First, final interview, my perspective, you've gotten to the point where they can do the job. You've established they have the skills to do the job. And the final test is, do they have any further questions about what they're signing up for at that point? Like if you're doing that with 5 candidates, to your point, there's no scenario where you feel 5 candidates confidently can do the job. And now you're getting,
you want all the 5 and you don't care which one.
Yeah. That's a major flaw in the hiring process. The other thing you said earlier about, putting people through the process when they're not a fit. I can tell you from my personal experience of doing this for 15 years, any hiring manager that says, maybe we'll see, that candidate never works out. Never. And I get to the point now where if it's a maybe we'll see, let's be fair to everybody involved and let's move on. If you're sure, great, let's explore that and see what's left to assess as we move through the process. But if it's, I don't know, but let's see what these 3 other people think because I'm not quite sure, you've already made up your mind, and let's be fair to the candidate to move on. So it just
also like a simple question of what would make them be 100%? Is there anything that they would do that would move them to 100%? Yes. And if there isn't, it's more human to let them go at that stage.
For sure. So I want to ask you, how would you fix the hiring process? I mean, your background, being in product, being in strategy, how do you fix it?
Yeah, I think like any good job is not done alone. And I think, there are a lot of resources that can help be a good hiring manager and put in place a right process. And in each company, it's different. Each role, it's different. Each hiring manager is different. But really come to the table extremely, open to say, okay, we're opening this job. Here's the job description. And that person does not work in a vacuum. That person works with peers, with other managers, with the team. It is important to involve these people, not necessarily in everybody in the hiring process, but at least in the job description. Hey, we're adding this headcount to the team. I think that they should do this. Am I missing anything? Or do we not need that? And just, it's okay to remove requirements from the job description, but be able to actually get all the team involved. Like one of my favorite questions in an interview by the interviewee is actually to say, why did you decide that this role is required right now? And you learn so much about it. And hopefully that more people than just the hiring manager will know why we need that person on the team and why that cannot be done by the existing team, or no one can get promoted to do it or whatever. But that discussion is a healthy discussion that helps to put the right process in place. And then it is important to get who should be part of the process, who's a duplicate, and we don't need to, it's not I worked for a company that they said, we have to have Joe, in the interview process or, he'll get offended. No, let's have that conversation with Joe and figure out what does he need out of this. It does not mean that they need to be part of the process. Sometimes Joe is too busy and then this process is too long because we got him involved. Or sometimes Joe is not, conveying like he's a good employee, but he's not, a good seller. And we can lose a good candidate because he's not showing up as enthusiastic in calls and in interviews as he should be. Like we really need to put into consideration that, hiring is marketing. And then you put the right people in front of this so that you look good and you also get the information. And then if anybody in the process does not feel comfortable that they understand their job in the process and know how to do it, be open and ask for support. Be open and ask for training or go and study on your own. There's so many free resources, influencing people that can help you learn how to do a good job. And sometimes your workplace actually offers that training, either by someone within the company or external or whatever. But just make sure that you know how to do a good job. And they're all of these three things require work. It's not a, oh, we can do this. No, it requires a teamwork. It requires a process planning. It requires being, humble and knowing what you don't know and asking for help. Like, it requires a lot of stuff, but it does ensure that, one, the process will be quick. And the second thing is that you'll find the right candidate and it'll be great, and you'll enjoy it and they'll enjoy it, and you'll have a great culture of hiring, and people will say great things about you on social media. That, I didn't get the job, but I see a lot of those. I didn't get the job, but they were really, really fair about the process, or I really enjoyed, or I learned so much. Like, that actually is seen. Like, I actually see these posts. And I think that that's important, that you also have like a second KPI, not just the hiring one, but actually to look good in the process.
I always like to say, could you imagine if we tried to get customers the same way we try to hire? Like, where it's like, we just got to go. Can you just go and get customers? Like, can you go, like, what do we need to just go on sale? Just go on sale, get some customers, go do it quick. Go now. Like, there's such a focus and a strategy towards customer acquisition. And then when it comes to candidates, if we treated them even a fraction of the same from a process perspective, it'd be incredible. But we just don't look at it. But still, those same organizations claim that people are their most important asset. So like, I find it just very ironic in that it should be a very similar process. It's, the way you get customers is going to be the same way you're going to get candidates. You need to stop and think about the ideal candidate and why, and then what messaging is going to get there, what time, what platform, all of these things. And then from a recruiting perspective, as you said, how are you going to assess them? And how is that experience going to be positive, so that when you want someone, they also want you too, because it's their decision. It's not, we're in a different market now, where it's not just you pick someone and they're like, thank you for picking me, of course I'm signing up. Now it's like, great, well, I have some other opportunities too, and I'll get back. So being conscious of that, and I love what you said, it's marketing. Like, you need to treat it like a marketing. It requires work. And some organizations are doing it well, and some other have to put in a little bit more time and energy to do that.
And ask for help. It's okay. It's okay to ask for help.
And I was going to say, as we kind of tie this up, what's one small change you think somebody can implement if they're in a hiring position and they're going tomorrow and they're saying like, okay, this seems like a massive thing for me to change. I'm in a big company. We have a big process. What's one small thing they can do to micro disrupt the process?
Yeah. Probably that team alignment. It happened to me in the past that I said, I trust you guys, you can fill in the job. I don't need to be part of the process. It's okay. Like, because sometimes it looks as if it's like an honor, like, oh, we're going to involve you in the process and you're going to, no, it's like, I'm okay. Like, our teams have really good relationship. We have a good process that we nail together. And if you find the right person that will work for you, I'm going to work with them regardless if I was part of the process or not. So, just to have that calibration between the team and see what works and what doesn't, and it's okay for me to actually say, you know what, here's what's broken between our team. And I think a person that will do X, can actually solve it for us. So I want to be part of the process, but whatever, just choose your position. So I think that team calibration, maybe that's like a small change that you could do to the process to ensure that the right people are involved. It's not too much, not too little, and that everybody gets out of it what they need in a short and sweet process. I think that, and then, in the long term, another ask that I have is like, if can you, as a hiring manager or from the HR ops team, click on that apply and go through the process. And and like someone posted like on LinkedIn that one of the questions in the, I don't remember who that was, but like they posted a screenshot and one of the questions was, tell me a joke. That's not cute. That's not cute. Like, someone will go through it will within the company and say, you know what, it's actually like putting the candidate in this, you know, weird situation of, they need to look for a joke, and if the joke is not funny or it is funny, like, is that like actually relevant to the job description? I when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's like the worst way for them to show that they're fun.
Yes.
Right?
Cringeworthy.
But it exactly. But that was actually a process. So and if it goes and sends you to another website that asks you to like rebuild your CV, and then it's like a clunky system, get rid of it. It's just stop. Like, find a better way. And I think that is, I know, coming from organizations, it's harder to change these type of processes and harder to replace systems within organizations. And sometimes you're kind of like, okay, this is what we have, and we don't have another tracking system, and we're committed to like a 2-year. Okay, but try to find a way out of it, or like make sure that it's in your to-do list, because it also shows a lot about you and how antiquated you are, and how you're not flexible to change, and you're not open to innovation. It just says a lot about the company of how you look a second after you click apply.
I think I saw the same post when it was like, tell a joke, and the response was this process. I think
Yes,
which is brilliant. Which is
it was
brilliant.
brilliant. It was brilliant.
Amazing. And I want, you have added something to your skill set and your repertoire lately as an author.
Yes.
You have a book that, depending on when the shows airs, could be live, could be in pre-sale, but
Yeah.
I would like to spend some time for you to share where that inspiration came from for you writing this book, and what's your hope of people watching this and how your book can help.
Yeah. So my book is called Starting from Scratch, and the subtitle is Manage Change Like Your Career Depends on It, because it does. But the book talks about like a 6-step model to manage change that affects your career. And I started writing it actually after a large reorg and layoffs happened in a company that I used to work for. And actually, I was part of on the surviving team. That's actually like a term as part of layoffs. And as part of that, I actually used that opportunity to go and pitch myself to the company CTO, come up with like a, kind of create your own adventure, create your own role. And I did that, and pitched myself and found a job. And then also, little did I know that it's actually like that's what happens to people. I also started mentoring at Cornell Tech, and got connected to 2 other female organizations that bring women into tech. And I said, hey, I'm available to mentor. That behavior is called post-traumatic growth. And apparently there are 25% of people who experience trauma, and layoffs and reorgs are obviously one of them. There are 25% of the people who go through it actually experience growth after. And the growth can happen and create either, a new self, a new identity, a new kind of resolution. Some people start, nonprofits as a result of it. They start volunteering, like they do these type of stuff. And I did not even know that my behavior actually had a name. But what I also saw is that other people in the organization actually did not experience, some of them did, and others did not. Actually, some of them became these, amazing talents that can no longer execute on anything. And others became just extremely angry about what happened and what happened to their peers. And others were just, okay, so what if I'm staying here? I don't want to stay here. And the workplace that decided to have them stay lost them.
Hmm.
And that's a lot lose-lose situation for everyone if you're not part of the 25%. And so the research I started doing, I found out what it is, what's post-traumatic growth, and then I said, okay, how do I one make that 25% bigger? Two, how did I even get to be part of that 20? Like, how did that even happen to me? And the last thing is, I want it to be more than 25%. And I'm hoping that we're actually starting this movement of more than 25% because these people, will be my peers in the future. Someone who was laid off and carries this trauma will be my employee or will be my peer. I don't want that to happen in the workplace. And I felt as part of that person who kind of unlocked the secret, I wanted to create that around me. So the book has been in the making for like 6 years. Actual writing I've been doing in the last 2 years. And so I wrote the kind of reverse engineer what I did in order to get into that spot, and also interviewed 200 people. About 20 something are in the book, out of those 200 interviews, to actually come up with those pivotal changes that they've entered into their lives in order to be ready for change and actually come back bigger and stronger. And my hope for the book is that it will become this movement of people who want to be in the 25% and make it more than 25%. And I really hope that, someone will actually one day read it and say, I read this book and it helped me and it changed me. And, I'm in this better, bigger spot because of it. Like, I'll be part of some amazing journey.
I love the mission, love everything. I love, kind of the help that starting from scratch is going to provide a lot of people, whether you're going through something now or not. I think, there's going to be a time when you're going to have some setbacks. So if you can prepare yourself and use it as an opportunity for growth, I
Yes.
mean, it's incredible. And I mean, 6 years in the making and 2
Mhm.
years of writing. I'm so excited for it to come out. I will. The link for the book is here. It's on Amazon.
Yes.
And
Amazon,
I
Barnes and
want
Noble. If you want to support a small business, it's also on Indie Books. But yeah.
amazing. So all the links will be there where you can buy the book. I want to hear what you all think about it. Reach out to me, or Oz. Where can people connect with you?
So actually, you can chat with me on my website. It's startingfromscratchthebook.com. And so there's a chat there that's actually me, and you can connect with me, and I respond to everybody who writes to me on the website. There are so many, kind of a spoiler, Thanksgiving is coming. And someone has asked me, what are you grateful for that you're not grateful for, you weren't last year? And it's definitely the people who write to me and say, I heard you speak. I understand the method. I can't wait for the book because I already implemented so and so, and this already opened something for me. So I'm grateful for the people who connect with me. So please do.
On that note, Oz, I want to thank you so much for spending some time sharing, about your book, starting from scratch, and about the hiring process and how we can get one step closer to making it
Yes.
more human. So
Amen.
thank you so much. And I look forward to reading the book.
Yeah.